What we can do in the meantime is have the judges go ahead and start asking their questions.
Great. Well, listen, as far as the videos, I've been there, done that. So, guys, good job. So don't worry. Just one question. As you start this, and this is a, oh, you got it? Got something? One question, as you're starting new with this, and you talk about operations and maintenance, was any thought given to asset management or a better way to, since it's brand new, right? It's coming in. Was there something better that maybe could have been implemented since you're starting from scratch, let's say?
If I understand you correctly, is it like you're saying like if there's a better system or?
Well, you know, you have operations and maintenance, but you also have to manage your asset. You have to know when to replace, when the efficiency, and some of the newer things that are coming in into managing the asset besides just the operations. So the question was, is really, since you're starting something new, might be an opportune time to take a look at implementing asset management.
Definitely. And that's why we decided to take a section into talking about the importance of branding, because this is a very new idea for a lot of cities like Havana. And even now, you know, it's sometimes how difficult thinking about like, oh, you're taking a lane from the traffic, but that's going to take, you know, make things faster. So we definitely believe that there's an importance in branding and getting the community to understand how they're going to get to one place of the city to another faster. So, and I think the way to do that is by educating people on how different systems of BRT have worked in similar cultures and similar countries, like you saw in there in the chart that Dave showed about how it's worked in other parts of the world, like South America and China or things like that. So we focus a lot of our studies in South America, where they have implemented very successfully BRT systems, because we felt that the transportation system and the culture is very similar to what it is in Cuba.
Thank you. Good job, guys. And I think there's an opportunity for the Florida International University / University of Florida teams to get together and do a BRT on Calle Central.
Yes, and that's actually, now that you said that, we do have, because we didn't know if we were going to run out of time, one of the streets that we analyzed was Carrera Central, and then we also look at Carlos Tres, which are roads that are very wide. Is the presentation?
The premise of bus rapid transit is well developed in your paper. Again, as a judge, this is for learning. You don't know how many times I've done presentations and the video doesn't work. So your presentation has to stand without the video. So that's just advice. Second, though, in your written paper, it seemed to me it was disorganized. You delivered it here a lot better. So that's another. But here's my question to you. There's no question that in Cuba there's very little automobiles. So it's a developing country. Hopefully it'll be a developing country similar to other countries. So when you sell bus rapid transit, how are you going to sell it to a community who's used to, I don't know how to say this, la guaguita, that goes from one center? Because typically bus rapid transit wants to go from one place where you live to one place where you work, longer distances, because time is a big deal. How would you approach this process in setting up these corridors or these arterials and promote bus rapid transit?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that question. So a big important factor that we didn't really talk too much about in the paper or here because of the sake of time is the feeder system. So a lot of the studies that we did and people that we talked to, they mentioned that one of the biggest problem is that people on the outskirts, they don't have access to the transportation. So therefore they have to bike or they have to hitchhike, or a lot of different, Cubans are creative about getting from one place to another from what I saw. So that's why in implementing a BRT system, I think is very important. It will be kind of like the veins of the system, the feeder system, which what it does is that we're going to have the local bus routes that are right now, which will be we included to our BRT system work as feeder buses that will go to the outskirts and bring people that are not reached directly by the lanes, bring them to like a main hub where the whole route starts, and then reach through the destinations that they have to reach. And also something very important is that obviously the whole purpose of the BRT is to hit the CBA area, which is the Central Business Distribution, CBD. So that way people get from their homes to their jobs, which is pretty much what they use transportation.
And I agree with Javier. Definitely your oral presentation is way better than your written presentation. It was a little bit disorganized. Considering all the capital investment and operational costs and maintenance costs that you have to incur in implementing this transportation system, you're talking about environmental sustainability, but you haven't talked about how you will be sustain the economic, how will be the revenues then in order to maintain, how you give it, the financial system that it will be necessary, and that only translate in the fare that you charge to the customers, and how does that compare to the current fare that they have in Cuba? I don't know if you look at that or not.
Yes, so I'll let you talk about a little bit of the fare, just to answer that. So definitely that was a big question, because we definitely have to, like I said at the beginning, looking at the cost, it's got to be justified by the type of lanes that we built. So we thought about what kind of income we will have, and yes, I agree that the fare, it's one of the income, but we also thought about other options, like for example, marketing, like the buses having some type of propaganda that will bring extra income. And then also from our research, talking to people that have been to Cuba or that done research, we found out that a lot of companies hire their own buses to get people from their homes to their companies, the large companies. So it'll be a great opportunity to partner with companies rather than having to spend money on paying their own buses, to invest in a system like this where their workers will have the feasibility and they're going to make sure that they're going to get from their houses to the job site. So we definitely have thought about other areas of income, because on the first stages of the, as the people start getting used to the BRT system and as we increase ridership, it's going to be hard to make that cost up just by the fare. So those are the other areas that we thought about making some extra income.
Okay. Any other questions?
I would like to make one question. I saw that you put the price of one of those buses at $14,500.
That's probably from the ITS system.
Yes, that's a cost of implementing everything we would need to in order to track each bus ITS using GPS technology. That's what that cost is. We didn't feel comfortable giving like specific values, because it all depends on which technologies you want to put in the bus and things like that. So we implemented, it's not shown here, but it's in the paper. It was just for GPS-based tracking system and integrated system with the main center.
Well, but what would be the cost then? Because I see minimum capital cost.
Yeah. So right here is a minimum capital cost and a maximum cost, and this is with all of the suggested ITS systems that we are using. These are minimum and maximum cost of what you could possibly get depending on what brand of system you buy or what type of system you buy. So it would be around $14,381 to implement ITS per bus.
Yes, because in the paper that we had, it has that the low income of the Cuban people is about $21.50 or something like that. I mean, compared to Colombia and compared to other countries. So if you have to use that bus 20 times a month, and have to go back and forth would be 40 times, and then according to the salary, what proportion of that money will be invested in that kind of cost? So that is my concern, that it would be not a too feasible project if you take in consideration unknown, and we hope that instead of 2150 will be 380.
Yeah, so going back to what we've been saying, so we also looked at the cost of the fares. That right now they're using buses, so they're paying some type of fare for the bus that they're using. So obviously the goal of our project is to match that cost or even make it lower. And the way that we're gonna do that is, again, by looking at different factors that, like, for example, I know a lot, like here in the US, when they're implementing this type of system, is, you know, the federal government, and there's grants that are available to use for this. So when you have different investment from outsiders, then it's easier to lower those costs for fares, rather than just having the entire income of the project come from fares.
I think what's missing, I think the question that was being asked is, you costed out the infrastructure investments for the roadway facility per mile. You costed out the intelligent transportation elements of the roadway and the vehicles, but you didn't cost out the vehicle. And that's, I think, the question. We saw in the paper there was 6 or 7 different types of vehicle, all modern, all very expensive, extremely expensive. I didn't pay attention to the price of the vehicles because the premise that I went under is that you can fix this infrastructure, set it up, and use the existing buses to run on it and start developing that ridership. But I think that's what we were asking, is the price of, because in my world, financial sustainability is equal to or more important than a lot of the other sustainable elements. Because if you have to subsidize this at 80 or 90%, it may fail. So that's one thing to keep in your mind when you're looking at these analyses in the future. Thank you.